you. I paid her to say all that stuff. It's all made up. Look, I'm really honored, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm just sitting there listening to the bigs speak, and I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. You really are changing lives. And this is something, you hear a big bad Navy SEAL sniper, right? Well, this chokes me up all the time, every time. So, as you heard, I was raised on the Eastern Shore of the Delmarva Peninsula, single mother, working and paying taxes by age 11. She was always working. I was always in trouble. In fact, let me tell you a little story. I remember being 11 years old, and I remember walking from the lunch area of the farm that I was working on. And I walk out, and there's this guy, he gets out of a big black car, he's in a big black suit, and he comes over to me and says, "Hey, are you Scott Taylor?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'm Detective so-and-so, so come with me, son." Great. So Herbert Wright, the farmer who I work for, runs up there and talks to him, trying to figure out what's going on. But he quickly backed down when the officer showed him his badge. So off we went to the police station, and I was charged, along with my brother and one of his friends, with malicious destruction of property and breaking and entering. So imagine how proud my mother was that her 11-year-old son was on probation already. So she had to do something, right? So she contacted the big brothers and big sisters, and thank God I was paired up with Andy. So I remember the day that I met Andy, Gigi, which was the advocate, I think it's called. It's been a long time. And she comes in the house, and I'm sitting on the couch, our old beat-up sofa with my sister, and I said, "He's going to be Mike, he's going to want to play games and sports like 11-year-old kids want to do, right?" So he walks in, and no, he is old, got gray hair, and I'm looking at my sister, and we're like, what are we going to do together? He's really old, But Andy was actually really cool, and so Andy was a lacrosse player in college, but he also had brought the lacrosse program to Salisbury University. So one of the first things we did after I got over the fact that he was old was we went to, because he had a game, so we go into the gymnasium, and the whole team's sitting on the bleachers, and we walk in there. And I'm shy, because I'm 11 or 12 years old, and he says, "All right, well, I want to introduce my little brother Scotty," and the whole team starts going crazy and wild, and it was the scariest thing ever, but the coolest thing ever. And so anyways, but most importantly, I remember that very vividly, but one of the biggest things I really remember were just the times that we spent together at the English's Grill for $2.22 pancake specials. That $2.22 is probably $7 now, but it was $2.22, and we would just talk, and he would, teach me things, and really taught me everything from having a napkin at my lap at the dinner table to understanding stock options and everything in between. But what was also really cool and really important and very impactful was him coming to my sports games. And he came up to me during high school graduation. He said, "Hey, do you remember writing a letter when you were 11 years old?" And I said, "Of course I don't remember writing a letter when I was 11 years old." And he says, "Well, I had 3 kids to pick from. There were 3 of you, each one of you wrote a letter. And your letter really stood out to me." And he says, "The reason why is because I like sports. And in your letter you wrote, I just want someone to come to my games." So yeah, it choked me up too. And I played a lot of sports, and of course I had a lot of free time. My mother was always working, she was at the hospital on call, and my father wasn't involved in my life. And I'd see other families at these sporting games. And so I wrote, "I just want someone to come to my games." And I have to tell you that Andy came to almost every game that he could. I remember him coming to tons of, I played sports all year long. Wrestling matches, out of the city and everything like that. He would come to all of those. And he enjoyed it too, so I think it's important. And I think that Chip said something that you get along really well, right? So you have like interests and stuff. And that's very important to continue that relationship, in any relationship, right? So Andy is now 76 years old. I'm 36, so there's a 40-year difference, but it's been since I was 11 years old. I talk to him just about every day, sometimes more than once a day. He taught me many, many things. But I think it's really important that, and I heard the Bigs say this as well too, he really instilled confidence in me and self-worth. So that this skinny kid from the small town with no stoplights, from a low-income household with no money or family ties, could dream big and rise above that and succeed in things in life with his guidance. He was the first person I would call for advice. He still is. He was the first person I would call for, or talk to for future plans. He was actually the first person that I called from the deserts of Iraq when I was injured. So I'm just very pleased and proud to be able to be here in front of you today. And I mean, Andy has been instrumental in my life. I talk about him as many times as I can all over. In fact, his profile is growing. He likes that, of course. We were at Regent University this week, and we were speaking to about 400 or 500 people or something, and he was there, of course. And he's just part of my story. And he was there, and of course we give him a plug. You know, he's like, "Oh, the ladies love me," you know. But it's whether you are a donor, whether you're a big or a little, you know, I think this program is just amazing. It really is. And if you are a donor, you don't think you have time. Look, never underestimate what the big impact of just a little bit of your time, your attention, and your experience can have on those around you, and certainly these kids that may not have the attention that they need, the full attention that they need. You know, it's very tough being a single parent. I mean, I remember my mother, and it's incredibly tough being a single parent, and you just can't do everything. You can't give the attention, especially if you have several kids, right? I was the middle child. I'm always, you know, jockeying for attention and jockeying for position, right? And just didn't get it. So if a kid doesn't get attention, he's going to find it, or she is going to find it in some way, right? And it could be bad. So I just want to encourage you to go forward and continue what you're doing. If you're a big, I would tell you, and I've heard Andy say this, that if Andy were here today, just like Chip, he would say to you that he got just as much out of this as I've gotten. That's hard for me to fathom, but he would say that. But, you know, I think it's Steve on the program that's going to encourage you and ask you to give and all that stuff, but I'm also going to ask you to give too, and I'm going to give. So here's my check. Get yours. Thank you all very much.